Good evening. Welcome to the Rock Church Wednesday night Refuel. Man, we got us a crowd tonight. Awesome. Well, we're all glad you're here. Miss Sarah is going to bring the word and talk about her dad a little bit. And it'll be good. Like her and Roger. Good people. They're good people. So how y'all doing? Good, good, good. Well, like I said, it's good to see you. If you would stand, we're going to worship. When all I see is a battle, you see my victory. When all I see is the mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There is nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And if for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty, yeah. When all I see is a cross, God, you see the empty tomb. Oh. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. But I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Yeah. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. But I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. Well, I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, yeah. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Hallelujah. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. Oh, the Lord has promised good to me. His word, my hope secures, yes. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Come on, sing it. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. Yeah. Well, the earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forbear to shine, but God who called me here below will be forever mine. Will be forever mine. You are forever mine. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing. One more time. Oh, my chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. amazing grace, yes, Lord. Oh, your amazing grace. Oh, Lord, thank you for your grace. Hallelujah, thank you for your grace. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Bump elbows with somebody, and then you can be seated. I got a couple of quick announcements. If you're looking for something to do this Saturday, around 10 o'clock, we're going to have a work day here at the church. It's voluntary, but we're going to do some yard work and pull some weeds and just get the church ready for Easter. So if you want to come on out, we're going to rake. You know how when they plow the snow, sometimes they push rock out into the grass. Well, we need to rake the rocks out of the grass so that when we start mowing it, don't throw rocks everywhere. And so just some jobs like that. So if you want to come on out, 10 o'clock on Saturday. And as of today, we are starting a new ministry here at the church, the parking lot ministry. Bob Hilgers, Dave's dad, is going to head that up. And so if you are interested in helping with that, you can see myself or Jennifer or Bob, or you might even see Dave. I'm sure Dave would be happy to tell his dad about anybody that wants to volunteer for that. Have you ever found that God will put you in the exact right place at the exact right time to say some little something to that exact person that will change their life? Well, you're going to hear all about that. Come on, Sarah. This is Sarah Mills. She's going to share her story and her dad's story. So just take your time.
Can everybody hear me okay? Pastor Steve asked me, do you want a mic or a headset? I said, I don't know. I've never talked in front of people before, so I don't know. So hopefully y'all can hear me. Basically, this story is amazing. I think it is. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. I notice there's some people out here that have been through the whole journey with me of this happened. And actually online, when you see a picture of a little boy on here a little bit later, they're in Iowa. They are watching also. The first story I want to share started on October 31st, 2012. At about 3 o'clock, I got a phone call from my dad, and he said he needed to go to the hospital. Well, guess what? That night was trick-or-treat night. And at that time, my son was 8, and I thought, it's trick-or-treat night. What am I going to do? I have trick-or-treat. But I went and got Dad, took him to the hospital. He had a diverticular bleed. They had to do emergency surgery. Well, when they did emergency surgery, they nicked his bowel, and he went septic. He had C. diff, he had VRE, you name it, he was sick. Little did I know that night was going to turn into the next 3 years of him being in intensive care in a nursing home, a retirement living, and now back to where he is now living at home by himself. So that night, they had to do an emergency surgery. I think it was the next day, and he was sick. This whole week he was so sick. His blood pressure was bad. He had a high fever, and the doctor said, we're going to have to do another emergency surgery. I thought, okay, well, let's do what we need to do. Another emergency surgery. I think we went on 2 or 3 more weeks. My dad was in intensive care. And during this time, Shelly was my savior. She was there almost every day for me, bringing me food, trying to make me eat. helping me get through my dad's bills. I mean, I'm pretty much all my dad has, so it was a lot. So probably I think it was like the 4th week, I'll never forget. And I have to add this, I don't know how y'all feel, but every time Pastor Steve walked in, I started crying. And I don't know, it's comfort to me. I don't know about anyone else, but how people go through what they do in life without having God in their life, I have no idea how they do it. And I felt bad because he's probably thinking, why are you crying every time you see me? It's just because I felt a comfort and I felt a peace when he was there. But my dad wasn't doing really good at all towards like the 4th week he was there. And during this time, Shelly introduced me to who is now like my sister Janet. Her father was ill at the same time. She was an only child. We were there for each other. And John and Peggy were there praying with Janet, prayed with me. It's like they were there just when we needed them. But I wish Bruce was here to tell the story, but I'll never forget, my dad was really ill. I mean, Bruce came up at that time. He was over the hospital, and he goes, Sarah, he said, I just want to let you know it doesn't look good. And what I mean that is I don't think your dad's going to make it. He says, and in his mind, he says, there's anything I can get you, like some coffee. And I started crying. I said, I want my mom. And my mom came out. My parents have been divorced 40-some years. And my mom came up, and I know it's just a normal reaction, I guess. I'm like 40-some years. He probably thought, okay, didn't think that you'd want to say that. I thought, well, like coffee or something. My mom came up, and we made the decision when I talked to my dad's doctor that he needed to go to St. Louis because not that they didn't do a good job here, it's just my dad was past what they could do here. So Shelly was there for me while I went and got my clothes ready. My mom got ready. She's like, you're not going by yourself. We went over there. And for those of you who don't know, I have a horrible fear of elevators and enclosed spaces because I was in a car wreck. And we went to a hotel, checked in, and went over to where my dad was. And me being the smart person I was, I said, I'll take the stairs. Well, the staircase I took me into a basement. And I didn't know how to get out. And I was like panicking. And my mom's like, where have you been? I'm like, I was stuck in a basement waiting for someone to help me to get out of there. And there was no exit doors. So anyway, and being a Christian, that's my weakness because I always feel that if people know that, they're like, well, you're a Christian, you shouldn't be scared. But I am human. So anyway, long story short, we go to St. Louis. My dad went straight to the intensive care there. I went up there, and he doesn't remember a lot of this, and we don't talk a lot about it because it was very, very bad. And my mom stayed back, and I went into the emergency room, or into the intensive care. They took him directly in there, and my dad's whole body was shaking. And I had seen it before when he went septic, and they wanted to put a trach on him. And I said, don't do it. I seen it before. I laid on top of my dad until he calmed down. And I was just praying the whole time. And whenever he calmed down, I went out because I didn't want him to see me cry. And a nurse came out and she said, you're amazing. I said, what do you mean? She said, how did you just do that? I said, it wasn't me. I said, I have faith and I just did what I needed to do. And, I didn't realize that I was making an impact on somebody because I was doing what I felt was best. So anyway, let's move on because this was a long story. So my dad went in, was in intensive care probably at least 3 weeks there. And when they moved him to the room after intensive care, I told my dad he owed me for the rest of his life. 17th floor. 17th floor, okay. Well, my mom's like, well, it's express. I'm like, I don't care how express it is. I said, it's an elevator. And if those doors don't shut, it's not gonna matter, or don't open, it's not gonna matter. So here I am with the next challenge, because I'm gonna go to my dad's, see him every day. So how am I gonna do this? So second day I was there, this little bitty guy, the concierge, he's like, can I help you with something? I'm like, well, no, I'm just waiting for somebody that's going to the 17th floor because I'm not riding up by myself. And he goes, oh, well, I'll go up with you. Every day, he met me there, rode up, Well, then I found another guy that left at 3:15 every day. Big guy. Every day, come down with him. And if I only could imagine what these people were thinking. She goes up with one, comes down with another. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was awful. And I told my dad out of all the floors, you have to have the 17th floor. But he thought it was a pit house because it had a nice view. And but anyway, so we went through this for a while. And I was really having a hard time, probably, I don't know. I mean, it was so many hard times. I was feeling sorry for myself. You know, they had given me the power of attorney to my dad. Now my dad's life's in my hands. It's an awful feeling if you all have never had that happen. So when I first got there, I was staying at the hotel over there. Do you remember what that was called, Mom? Parkview. Well, the bus that you take is usually 5 minutes to get to your car. Well, I missed the bus one night, and I was so upset because the next bus was 20 minutes, and I was tired and everything. So I get on the bus, knowing it's going to be longer, and we pull up to the Ronald McDonald House. And a lady by the name of Crystal, who is watching, I believe now, gets on the bus. And I'm like, oh, I said, I hate to see that you're getting on because I'm assuming you have a child in the bus or in the hospital. And she said, yes. She goes, I have a little boy, he's waiting for a heart. I'm like, oh, okay. Can you put the first picture up? She shows me a picture. This is what she shows me. Okay, I am feeling sorry for myself. My dad is sick. This lady, when she tells me how old her son is the same age as my son. And if you want to go, you can go ahead to the next picture. But this is Ridge, and that's the picture she showed me. And I thought, wow, here I am, feeling sorry for myself, and she has a child in here. You know, that is just crazy. So we got to talking. Imagine that, me talking. We got to talking and exchanged numbers and everything. You can go ahead to the next slide. But these are just some pictures. That's when he was a little bit happier. And Crystal, if you're listening, if I get any of this wrong, it's just bear with me. But go ahead to the next one. And is that the last one before the? Okay, we'll go ahead to. Okay, that's him now. But let me tell you the story. Before she got off the bus, and she did not know this till just the other day, I said, you know, you made an impact on my life more than you ever knew. I got off the bus, and she goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I said, what? She goes, you never told me what I could pray specifically for your father for. I'm like, are you kidding me? You have a child that is waiting for a heart, and you're asking me what you can pray for me for? That really threw me back, and it really made me take a whole different look at life and how I was looking at life. And like I said, yes, my dad was sick, and that was my dad, but she has a child. She lives in Iowa, okay? That her and her husband owned their own business in Iowa, and her husband wasn't able to be there all the time. They took turns, and moving from October, it was now Christmas time, okay? So at Christmas time, I hadn't been going to church, and I felt bad because I hadn't really been tithing the way I should. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go over, and I'm going to give her a card, and I'm going to give her some money for Christmas. So I took some coloring books over for Ridge, and I took her a card. And she opened that card and started crying. She said, do you know? She said, we needed to come up with $200 for my husband to be able to come this weekend, and someone else just gave me money on the elevator. And now we have the money that we need. Bear with me. Is that better? Oh, my ear. Hold on. Greg was upset I had hair. Now he's my ear. It's like, oh.
What'd you do?
Hey, I tried to warn you.
I don't know whether to feed that through your earring or lay it around or.
Guess this will
Let's
be
do
another
this.
story.
I'm going to feed it through the earring. There we go.
Did you take it off? Because it looks like an
I
earring.
think you're okay now.
That was stretching it when you said you thought it was okay, but no.
Yeah, you may need to take that earring off, or it's going to be.
That's how I'm keeping their
There we
attention.
go.
Okay, now I'm one lopsided. So anyway, long story short, got through that. The other thing is my dad was still there. Like I said, is that the other earring? Okay. So I had a dilemma because I had to leave my dad at night because I had a son at home that I was taking care of. So I had this bright idea. On the way over, what was that? Me. On the way over every day, now don't y'all laugh at me, I stopped at McDonald's and got a baker's dozen of cookies for my valet drivers, for my nurses, and for everybody, because that's nurse bait, right? I mean, that's what I was told. So I would take cookies over to everybody because I'm like, now listen, I'm bringing y'all stuff, so when I'm not here, you need to take extra care of my dad. So that was every day. I did Panera Bread on Tuesdays because Panera Bread's had the baker's dozen half price. So anyway, and so I thought, just once a week is good. So anyway, I got to where I didn't take the shuttle anymore, and I started to valet park, okay? So valet parked, and 3 guys there every day. Jennifer was kind enough to go with me one day because of the elevators and driving over there, and they called me up church after that because they thought that I had something to do with the church, and I'm like, no, that was her last name. I don't think you guys ever knew that, but every time they're like, hey, up church. so I just went with it because I never knew their names. So anyway, I got to become friends with these guys, okay? Every day I'd take them their cookies, and they wouldn't charge me to park at valet, and I had it all figured out. That was valet bait, So anyway, like I said, I look forward to seeing them because, believe it or not, they made my day. They were always smiling and happy and checking on me and, how's your dad doing? Well, my dad was in it. When he got out of the hospital, he ended up having to go to what's called Kindred. It's a long-term hospital over in St. Louis because no nursing home would take him. Nobody would take him because he was so sick. So we actually spent Christmas there, believe it or not, and I will never look at a holiday the same because there are so many people that are not able to spend time with their loved ones on the holiday. We went over there, we rolled his hospital bed down there, and he wasn't able to eat for 3 months, and I wasn't thinking about it. I brought the nurse's candy, and he rolled it on his lap, and he's like, I haven't been able to eat for 2 months, and you put candy on my lap. I'm like, oh yeah. I kind of forgot about that, but he was there for a while, and then we finally got him moved to back to a nursing home here. But I want to share a story because if I don't say this, my dad will be upset because his doctor over there was awesome, and he told my dad, "You will get better if you do what I tell you to do." Well, guess what? The doctor had come in, and my dad had about 5 Ensures on his table when he was able to eat, and he's like, I thought I told you to drink those. Well, and he goes, no, I told you, I will make sure that you get better. You have to do everything I do. Well, which he did because I couldn't tell him. That is my dad. He has to listen to the doctor. But that was kind of a funny story. And actually, in between time, he had actually got hospital psychosis. I don't know if y'all have heard of that. It's awful, awful, awful. It's one person told me it's because of the ceilings. He at one time thought there were ants crawling on the ceiling. It's because the machines, they beep, beep, beep. And one night, my dad was out of it. He couldn't talk. 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call. My dad's cell phone. I'm like, what in the world is going on? He's like, hey, why'd you leave me out here at Buckeyes? I'm like, what? Buckeyes? He goes, yeah. He says, how am I going to get this hospital bed home from Buckeyes? He goes, you just left me. I'm like, oh dear. So I said, well, I'll be there to get you in a second. So I called the nurse, and she's like, sorry, but she's like, have you been drinking? I'm like, no, somebody needs to go check on my father. Well, he was half in and half out of the bed, and what it is, he knew how to call me, and he just had a moment in between this hospital psychosis where he was awake enough, and he literally thought I left him. Awful, awful feeling because I was an hour and a half away, but those are things that I would have never dealt with if I hadn't have dealt with this with my dad and everything. But I'll move it up a little bit. See how much time I have here. Okay. So when my dad finally got into the nursing home that would take him, because a lot of the nursing home wouldn't take him because he was not able to eat. So, yes. I'm getting there. Yeah. I got a lot of notes here. No, so basically, he was at the nursing home over here, and real quick, I want to throw this in here, just because when I was over there at the hospital, my dad was sick. I didn't really have any breakdowns because I didn't ever want to break down in front of my dad. I also had to have my dad's dog put to sleep while he was sick and didn't know it. Most awful thing in the world. But when I was there, I did everything I could to be positive, to bring the nurses cookies and stuff, because, I mean, I was over there by myself. And I want to say that it was hard, but my mom and my stepdad offered to come and sit with me because they said, you know, we don't have to come with your dad, but we'll be there for you. You need somebody also. And, you know, that means a lot whenever you're over there by yourself. And Shelly and Janet made me stay home one day, and I want to stay home, and they went over there and let me be home. And they said, they were taking pictures to make sure what kind of medicine he's on and everything to let me know. But when he got in the nursing home over here, he had a lot of extra issues going on because I don't know if you know what a wound vac is, but he had to heal from the inside out. It was awful. Well, I never knew when I got a phone call. I pretty much figured he's going over to St. Louis. 11 o'clock one night, I get a phone call. We're going to have to take your dad over. Call my mom. She goes, I don't want you driving by yourself. I'm going with you. So we went over. By the time we got there, my dad was already in the emergency room. They were doing a small procedure, but he knew he was okay. And I look over and I'm like, that's my valet guy. I never knew his name. I call my valet guys. And I said, you still working? He goes, no. I said, are you okay? He goes, my wife's in that room. She had a stroke and a heart attack, and I don't know if she's going to make it. I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, what do you want me to do? And he goes, nothing. I said, well, is there somebody coming? And he's like, yeah. And I said, I'm not leaving you until someone's here. I don't care what you think. I swear God had me start valeting because he knew that I was going to be there in that time of need for him. And she ended up passing away. And I took a card, and I'm like, to my valet guy. And he wasn't there, and I give it to one of the other guys. And he said, you know, he told us that you were like his angel that night, coming and just showing up out of nowhere. I said, but you guys don't realize that's how I feel about you. So talk about God's plan, that I was there. And I know this, it doesn't even matter, but he was an African-American man, and I'm sure that people were wondering, where did you come from to come over here, you know? But I wouldn't leave him. I was hugging on him, and I mean, the nicest man you would ever meet. And who would have thought when I started valeting that I would be in the emergency room one night at 11 o'clock at night with him? And it just blows my mind, some of the things that happen. So that was my valet story. Let's see here. The other thing I just want to share real quick that from when my dad was sick is, you know, when you're in the hospital that long and my dad never complained. Never. One time did my dad complain. The only thing he said was, I'm so sorry. He would apologize to everybody. And I said, Dad, you can't help it. But he never complained about anything. I can't say I probably wouldn't, but he never complained. And then he had this one favorite nurse that always, you know, would come in and help clean up and stuff. And next thing I know, I was having to bring $5 bills and $20 bills in because it meant so much to him, and the stories that he hears, because he gets close to these people. And I would end up, you know, giving them some extra money for taking good care of my dad. And they said, you don't need to do that, but I want to. You're taking care of my dad, and that's how much it means. So just little things that go above and beyond. You never know how much that's going to affect someone. So basically, my dad went to the nursing home. We had several times that we had to go back to the St. Louis. My mom and I are walking around out there. I'll tell you what, if you've never been to an emergency room in St. Louis at 11 o'clock at night, it's scary. Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff going on, and my mom's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is like what's on TV. I'm like, you're like, that's like, I mean, it's just, it's scary, but like I said, we were in good hands, but it's very scary. But the whole time I was there at the hospital, I tried to keep a positive attitude because my dad was sick, but you know, I had cried so much at the beginning, crying wasn't doing anything. And all I felt was my prayers were the only thing that was helping me get through. And I don't know if you all know him or not, but one time that my dad was in the hospital when he was there, Danny Griffin, who just passed away, he was in the hospital at the same time. And I seen him, I said, Danny, is that you? And they were walking him up and down. And he's like, yeah. And I said, you all better take good care of him. And I was giving them a hard time. And I told the nurses, now I know him. I said, I'll bring you extra cookies if you take good care of him too, you know? So anyway, about probably 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from Danny. And he says, I want to tell you something. He said, I feel that you need to know this. And I said, what? He said, well, after you told them that you knew me, several nurses and even the gentleman that was walking with me said, do you know her? And he's like, yeah. I said, we watch her every day when she comes in here. She is the most positive person. She's always asking if we're okay, even though I did get a key to the break room and I could have Blue Bunny chocolate ice cream even anytime I wanted. You know, those cookies, it worked out getting cookies. But yes, but he said, I just want to let you know that you made an impact on them. When I was thinking they were doing everything for me, it woke me up a lot to be like, okay, I'm a Christian person. That helped me know that how I was acting was okay. I mean, there was a nurse, I'm not gonna lie, a couple nurses that had upset me, but you know what's it gonna do any good? Because y'all know if you make somebody mad, they're gonna do stuff worse stuff usually, you know. But I just took it in stride. And when Danny called me, I actually got tears in my eyes because I wasn't thinking about that. When I was there, all I was worried about my dad. And when he called and told me that, it really made me take a look back on everything. And I reevaluated the whole situation. And I thought, you know, if I was going in there and acting just not Christian-like because I knew I was a Christian because we talked. I mean, imagine that. I mean, I talked to all the nurses. I knew everybody by first name and probably because I brought cookies, but, you know, I knew everybody there. And it's just, we need to all think about how we are acting in different situations because everybody is looking at us. And that's my opinion. But that's pretty much the story like with my dad. Now, I did reach out to Crystal, Ridge's mom, because whenever he had his first surgery, it was, I think in December, his body rejected his heart. Okay, so here he finally got a heart and his body rejected it. Things that we don't realize, because of this, his fingernails didn't grow, his teeth didn't come in. There's all kinds of things that the normal person would not realize that they're dealing with. But she impacted me like you would never know. And I messaged her because we've been on Facebook and I just keep up with her. And when I'd asked her if I could share the story, she had told me that this was a huge event for both of us and that she had shut away for a long time and it opened some emotions for her that really she wasn't ready because Ridge has done well. He just got his driver's permit, but he is having a little bit of still issues that they're trying to deal with and work on. So I do ask for everybody to just keep him in your prayers too. But then the awesome thing is she said she's going to be coming back to St. Louis because they live in Iowa this summer and wanted to get together because she wanted Ridge to meet some people that had such an impact. And this is how she put it. And it's so true because she's praying for me, but she says, let's see here. Let's see. If I can find it. And of course I can't. She said, I'm hoping he could find some special people to meet, to introduce him to, the many who held us on Holy Spirit autopilot and lifted us up in prayer when we couldn't lift ourselves up. You know, little did she know what an impact she made on me. And that was meant to happen. I was meant to miss that bus. I was not happy about it, but I mean, here I am talking about it still to this day, and he's a miracle I mean, he's a miracle. He still has issues, but that's him. And to see where, my dad is now, he couldn't even walk. He had to learn how to walk again. And then to see him here, it's just an amazing story to me. Now, I'm going to switch another story on you just because I don't get up here very often. And I have some, actually ever. And I do want to tell everybody that's watching, my mom, Shelly, Janet, I mean, the people that were there for me and my dad through all that, you will never, ever know how much that meant to me. Janet unfortunately lost her father in between all this, but we have all become so close. And, you just never know who God's going to bring into your life when things like that happen. So I'm going to, let's see here. I want to tell you another quick story here real quick. A company I worked for many years ago in photography, the owner of the company was atheist. And I kind of had a hard time going to work for a company where the owner was atheist. His mother was murdered when he was little, and he always was like, if God is so good, how could he let that happen? Well, my opinion is God doesn't let that happen. He doesn't like it when it happens. And I always tell people, God sent his son to die for us. That hurt him more than it hurt us. It's Satan. And if God would go back to Adam and Eve, and if he would forgive them time and time and time again, we would not be where we are today. I mean, he had to let us. It was us that sinned. It wasn't God that sinned. And I tried to tell him that, but, he was like my dad's age. He was like a dad to me. Well, it never failed. Any time that there was a funeral of someone that may have passed away in the company, he would cling to me. And he knew I was a Christian, I never said anything to him about it, but he would follow me everywhere. It's almost like I was his comfort, and he didn't want to admit it. Well, one day, I was coming back from a photography session and listening to Christian radio, and there was a song that came on, and I wish I could remember, but that song made me think of him. And I started crying. And I got back to the office, and this is a huge company. I mean, there's like 300 employees. And I went into his office and said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he said, "Everything okay?" And I said, he goes, "Well, why are you crying?" I said, I got to thinking, if something would happen to you, and I didn't try to talk to you or invite you to church or ask you about God, I would never forgive myself. And he said, "Do you know you are the first person that has said that to me? There are 3 ladies here, and their husbands are all pastors in the church. And not one person has ever asked me to church." I said, "So does that mean you're going to go to church with me?" He goes, "I don't know, And so we were talking, like I said, I was crying. And I said, if something would happen tomorrow, I would not forgive myself because I thought a lot of this man. And so he had got called out, and of course everybody thought I was in trouble because they came out crying, and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And anyway, I wanted to finish the conversation, and I'm like, "Well, I'll talk to you later." He goes, "Well, he's a huge ping pong. He has had his own ping pong company, and he has a robo-pong you can play against yourself and everything." And he goes, "Just know that if something happens, I'll be playing ping pong in heaven." Well, did that satisfy me? Not really, because he was probably just trying to comfort me, thinking, okay, she'll be fine if I tell her that. Well, years down the road, he wouldn't go to church, but he passed away a couple years ago. And when I had heard he'd gotten sick, I called his son-in-law, who was a Christian, and I said, "Russ, I need to talk to you." He goes, "He's been going to church with us." He knew what I was going to say. I said, "Really?" And I was like surprised. Well, I had seen him probably a few months later, and he goes, "I've even been sitting in the front row," because he knew I was going to ask him. I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Now just know, I'm keeping an open mind. I don't believe everything he says. Sometimes I laugh out loud." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." In church, whenever people don't believe, unfortunately, there are people that laugh because they think Christians are a big joke. And, I tell people, hey, I have nothing to lose. If I'm wrong, I have nothing to lose. If you're wrong, you got everything to lose. It's just a matter of fact. So he ended up passing away. And whenever he passed, I called this same son-in-law, and I said, I just have to know. That's all I said. He goes, about an hour before he died, he whispered in his daughter's ear, I know Jesus loves me. Do you know the relief that gave me knowing that? Because this guy, I'm telling you, had no faith. And I cannot imagine being on my deathbed, not knowing if I die, and I'm not a Christian, it's a chance I take. Hell is not a good place to be, and eternity is a long time. And I just can't even imagine. I mean, I can't be in an elevator. I can't imagine being in hell. I mean, but it's just not even in my vocabulary. It's like, So, but I mean, I just want to tell y'all, that really made a huge impact on me. And if there's somebody that I'll work with, and you don't think they'll go to church, has anybody even asked them? I mean, I went straight to those people, and they were older than me quite a bit. And I said, I can't believe you never asked him to go to church. And they're like, well, he's the boss. I said, he signs the checks, but he's not going to get you where you need to go. I think I'd be more worried about where you're going than who's signing your check. And that's how I felt, because God will provide if I get fired for talking to him about, but anyway, that's another story. And I just want to tell you all that is on my heart. And I share that story with a lot of people because I think it's important. If you know somebody that might be on the edge, I mean, how do you know if anybody's asked them? Nobody's maybe even, I'm guilty. I'm still guilty right now. I mean, I probably need to ask more people to church, and I don't, so I'm just talking to myself now, making me feel guilty. But that's something we need to do. The other thing I want to tell you real quick is another story real quick, and then I'll stop. But I just think these are neat stories. I hope you guys like them. So I moved to Colorado, and I grew up Lutheran. And I nannied for some Denver Broncos out there. And Jennifer, you might be watching. And they went to a huge church out there called Heritage Christian Center. Well, after I went, I called my mom. And I said, Mom, I don't want you to be mad at me, but I went to a different church. I grew up thinking I was going to be in trouble. I mean, not from you, but I mean, that's just how you feel if you are grown up in a church. And she goes, no, I don't care, as long as you're going to church. So this is in Colorado that I went. So that's where I first personally found non-denominational, and I loved it. She went with me one time, and they sang gospel music. There was like 50, and she's like, oh my. I mean, talk about coming from Lutheran to that, night and day. But that's where I kind of first started, finding different churches that I like. And how I feel about non-denominational, I personally also feel that you worship God, you don't worship religion. Me only, that's how I feel. I feel in this church, I'm not singing about God, I'm singing to him. I have never cried in church before I went to a non-denominational church. And it's because the feelings are there. So moving from Colorado to Tennessee, I went to a church in Tennessee. Reba McEntire always was right in front of me. And it was hard not to start conversations with her because I took pictures of a little boy, so I was poking at him, hoping she'd say, leave him alone, and then I could talk to him, but it didn't happen. So anyway, but I was going through a really hard time, and the church I went to was a lot like a non-denominational church. And I was, like I said, going through a really, really hard time, and I had never, ever been up to the altar. And I'm like, I really am having a hard time. These other people always do it. What should I do? So I thought, I'm going. And my friend was like, are you all right? Because she's the one that got me going there, and she's the one that was teasing me, saying that they get snakes out. And I'm like, what? Because they have those churches, but she had me scared. So I went up, and whenever I went up there to ask for prayer, all these people started touching me. And I'm like, this is weird. But it wasn't weird. It was like, wow, these people really care about me. I mean, these people are here for me. First time I ever experienced it, and it was the most unbelievable, relaxing feeling I've ever felt. And I know when Pastor Steve talks about, coming for prayer, I mean, it's not for him, it's for us. And there's so many times I sit out there and I'm guilty that I know I'm supposed to go up and pray, and I don't. And then I leave for church, I'm like, sometimes I want to text him. I said, I know I didn't come up. Can you pray for this? And he's probably going to be like, you had your opportunity, but he wouldn't do that, you know. But you know, if you ever feel it on your heart, it's good for you. It's okay to do. It's okay to bring a friend up and pray. I mean, there's times, like my mom doesn't like to go up in front of people, and I'll come up and pray in place of her if you have somebody that's really nervous about it. But it's very, very important, you know, that we do that. The same church service, I did that. First time I ever heard someone speak in tongues. So I'm getting double dose here. So this man was probably 80, didn't speak to anybody. All the church times I've been there, never spoke. Next thing I didn't even really know about talking in tongues. He got up, started running up and down the aisle. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I'm like, Tracy, is he okay? Is something wrong? Because he doesn't even talk to people. I mean, nothing. And he went back and sat down. I'm like, oh, I'm glad that was over. She goes, Sarah. I'm like, what? He goes, do you not know what just happened? I said, I have no clue. It was running up and down the you know, aisles. And next thing I know, the pastor got up there and he goes, okay, for those of you who don't know what happened, he just got filled with the Spirit and he spoke in tongues. He says, I will interpret. So the pastor in this particular case interpreted what he said. Well, I mean, I know most of you probably have heard some people here talking tongues, but if you've never heard it, it's I'm not going to lie, it's freaky the first time that you hear it. But it's powerful, and I will never, ever discount when someone speaks in tongues because it's real. It's in the Bible. And like I said, growing up Lutheran, it's a whole nother ballgame whenever you go into different churches. But I also, like I said, I grew up Lutheran, I love Lutheran, but I feel personally my faith has gotten stronger because of the worship team we have and the songs that we sing, because we're singing to God, you know, not about him. And like I said, I've learned a lot from that. I've learned a lot from my dad. My mom had cancer. I never forget, she handed me a Kleenex because I'm usually a big crybaby. And she's like, when she told me that, I didn't cry. She goes, you okay? I'm like, Mom. I said, when my dad was sick, I learned a lot, and crying doesn't really do anything. I know that you do. I said, all I have to do is pray. And I know that's hard because I think I kind of hurt her feelings, but when you go through so much, sometimes, I mean, crying isn't going to do anything but swell your face up and you can't see out of your eyes, and then you're just in trouble. But I just feel that God has really opened my eyes a lot. Y'all know about the story of my other boys getting baptized. I'm going to tell you that real quick, and I have like a few more minutes. So basically, I know they're all shaking their head so let me tell you a story. Right before Christmas, I believe it was, Brandon had friends coming over and spend the night, and there was 3 other boys. But it was 3 other boys, Brandon and Jared. So I get up to let the dog out at midnight. The boys are all in there. They're like, we just saw a ghost. I'm like, whatever. No, really, we saw a ghost. Have you seen the ghost? Malia? No? Oh, okay. So, and I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, no, we really did. Well, the blinds were drawn and everything. Well, next thing I know, we started talking about God. And one of the boys said, is it true if you're not baptized that you'll go to hell? And I said, that's not really a call that we make, but I truly believe that if God knows you're not baptized because you weren't, in the presence of it, or you're not aware of what it all means, I don't think he's going to use that against you. I said, but I would not personally feel comfortable not being baptized. But I said, I'm a Christian person. So we started talking until 3:00 in the morning. Brandon and Jared were helping me out because they both been baptized, and they had all these questions. And they're like, well, we want to get baptized. I said, well, you just don't go get baptized. I said, there's a lot more to it. And they're like, well, can we talk to Pastor Steve? I'm like, I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you. So that Monday, this was a Sunday, we went, me and all the boys were in there talking to Pastor Steve. Unbelievable analogy about the golf ball. I use that, by the way, now. I don't know if you heard his sermon about the golf ball, but they were asking so many questions, and then they end up getting baptized the next Sunday, and they've been to church pretty much every Sunday since. And if I would have, and I told them, by the way, this is not going to be an every Saturday night at 12 o'clock Bible study. We have to have a different time. If we're going to have Bible study, it's not midnight. But yes, but it was amazing. And you know, you just have to sometimes put yourself to the side and think of other people and see what's best for other people. And, you know, I put on my post the other day that it's okay to ask for prayer. And someone actually asked me for prayer that I would have never, ever dreamt in a million years. She sent me a message and asked for me to pray. And I'm like, that right there was worth it. I mean, just one person asked him for prayer. But that's just my story pretty much. I mean, I hope I didn't bore y'all, but I just think it's kind of exciting to share and everything. And I'm so happy that my dad is still with us, because honestly, he should not even be alive. And he's living back at home. Kind of nervous about COVID. This is the first time he's been anywhere since COVID. So he was really nervous about coming. And so he came, and I told him it's pretty much was based around him, so he needs to be here and stuff. So, but anyway, thanks for listening to my story. And anything else? Okay.
Let's see, she talked about faith, she talked about healing, she talked about sharing your faith, she talked about tithing, she talked about miracles, generosity. Man, there were about 6 or 7 messages there. I'll put you on the schedule again. Okay. Yeah. Let's give Sarah a hand. Great job. Hey, thanks for coming. Now I can say it with more emphasis. Share your faith. You're just